Welcome back to another episode of Endurance Icons. Just your hosts, Mark and Jess, here today. Welcome back for another episode. We're going to dive into a bunch of exciting stuff that's happening in the world of endurance sports today. So there's been some really epic results in the running and triathlon world, as well as some cool documentaries and stuff out. So we're going to go through all the excitement there and unpack some of that. And then we're going to talk a bit about what some of our upcoming plans are, which play into some of the craziness that's been happening in racing, and also introing a new rapid fire section at the end so you can get to know us a little better and start the buzz with you guys of your favorite and least favorite things. So I think this will be a good convo starter for people as well. So Jess, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. I got home from work not too long ago. You made a delicious dinner. It's sunny outside, a little bit smoky, which we'll get to later, but overall, I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, we had a great track session this morning. It was a little dicey as we left the house. We weren't sure because it was high on the smoke meter, if you want to call it, and we were a little worried, but it was actually totally fine. And now it looks like all the smoke is cleared. So
I know,
yeah.
and I crushed my workout today, which I normally am not able to say.
Yeah,
it's like sort of
you were putting
subpar.
the pain on the group today.
I know, we had mile repeats at the track, which was fun.
Got your revenge after I beat up on you Monday, but we'll talk about that after why we were doing a workout Monday and we were supposed to be racing last weekend, but we'll get to that when we get to the Tremblant section. But recently we watched a pretty amazing documentary on Netflix, kind of a similar one to the Formula One that was out before, called the Tour de France documentary Unchained. What did you think of that?
It made me so excited for the tour. Like I was obsessed. The moment that I finished watching it, I'm like, I will watch this again. And those who know me know that I hate rewatching things. So that's a huge statement. But anytime that I'm on the bike going forward, it will probably be some version of that.
So did you have a new favorite rider that came out of there?
Oh my God, yeah.
Who is it?
Wout van Aert. And honestly, if I wasn't married and he wasn't married, honestly, he's amazing.
Just for his bike riding skills, or just because he's a hot guy? What?
I mean, a combination of everything. He's like my new favorite for all the reasons.
His hair doesn't even look real. It's just like so magical
like
and majestic.
I know. And he's just like, he has cool boy vibes, you know?
Honestly, if you had to leave me, it would be I wouldn't even be mad if it was for Wout van Aert. He's a legend.
He is such a great all-around rider. And I love how I know that some of his interviews online said he didn't love how he was portrayed, and maybe not a team player, but I actually disagree. I feel like they did show a really strong team performance there, and it was great to see how they all interact, not just him and Jonas, but just all of the teamwork that happens. How about you? Do you have a favorite rider?
I had watched it before. Like, I watched the tour live every year just because I'm a big fan of the sport and have always enjoyed it. And definitely last year, Tom Pidcock, who had that epic stage where he was doing that crazy descent and won on Alpe d'Huez. He became a big favorite of mine last year. So
he's such a badass.
I know, he's just like, yeah, not afraid of anything, and like just seems like a nice British guy that just likes to rip it up. So I enjoyed watching him a lot.
I know, it's such a great documentary, and I know we're going to dive into a little bit of the tour in our next chat that we have probably in about a month, but I'm excited that it's coming up. I'm excited to watch the tour. I think it's one of my favorite parts of the summer.
For sure. Yeah, I think I've watched it every year for the last like 4 or 5, even like years before that. Even when I was just getting into endurance sport, I was always watching it. So yeah, it's amazing what those guys can do. So
I just think cycling is one of the most beautiful sports in the world. Like, it's so elegant, and it's teamwork, it's dramatic. There's all these unwritten rules. Like, one of my favorite moments in the tour document, and actually I don't think they highlighted it so much, but you definitely see it when you watch the tour, is if a lead rider has a mechanical, or one of the top riders, they will actually stop because it really is so much person against person. They wouldn't beat up on you if you had a mechanical. And I just love the sportsmanship that is within cycling. Like, it's such an incredible thing to watch.
Yeah, it's cool that they just want to win straight up, like based on their fitness or based off somebody's mistake maybe they made, but not a mechanical that might have been out of their control. So that part's cool.
And they're all such savages, like to do that day after day. And then they rip up their kits. Then, like, watching some of their descents, like, they're some of the bravest people, I think. Like, I love it. I'm so in awe.
Yeah, tough as nails. I love all those memes you see of like a soccer player gets grazed and they're like lying on the ground looking like they died. And then you got a Tour de France guy who, yeah, crashed and is all scraped up, bleeding, and he's back on the bike 2 seconds later, tearing it up a mountain. And you're like, okay, those guys are cut from the different cloth.
And I also love that we have a tour for women now.
Yeah.
And also, speaking of powerful, badass female riders, Allison, who was on the podcast recently, just crushed it with a race performance.
Yeah, what happened?
She won cycling nationals.
Nice. Yes, she won the road race in a sprint.
You said
at
that
the
like
end.
a test.
I know, just making sure you're tapped in. But yeah, she won the road race, which is cool. She had it played out pretty cool. She had a teammate in the race as well who was in the breakaway for a long time, and then it all came back together and she got a sweet lead out and nailed it home. So good for her. She did pretty solid in the TT and crit as well. I think she was fourth in the TT, which is cool because triathlete Paula Finley won the TT for back-to-back years. So
that is so incredible to be able to be at the top of two sports. Like, I know that, yes, we ride triathlon bike, but like a time trial is so different. Even the setup of your bike is different.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's so
especially with the
impressive.
UCI stuff and like crazy with Taylor Knibb recently. I would say it's almost even more epic what she did. She got signed by Trek Segafredo, and then she just came fourth at US TT Nationals, which like the three women that beat her are three of the like best in women's cycling, like for the time trial. So it's like Chloe Dygert and Amber Neben, who are like crazy time trialists, and she was like beating them through the main section of it and then just lost it at the end. So like, holy, what a future she has in cycling as well. So cool to see.
I know, it's so exciting to watch that crossover and some of the powerful women that we have in the sport, like throwing down in other arenas. And speaking of powerful ladies, Courtney Dauwalter at the Western States just annihilated the course record. This is so much in sort of the public sphere that the CEO at work, who is not an endurance athlete, was sending me links to it. Like, it is in public knowledge. That is how, like, 78 minutes under the record. Like, that's just remarkable.
Yeah, she was only like 30 minutes behind the male winner, I'm pretty sure.
I know.
That's nuts. She just crushes it. Yeah, I just love the vibe she brings too. She's got her like baggy shorts. She's not trying to be this like perfectly sleek person. She's just like, I'm out there to have a good time and crush it. And holy, did she ever.
But that's a vibe of trail running, which I love. Like, I know that Lucy Bartholomew, when she was on the podcast, was just saying, you know, the swankiness that we have in triathlon. She's like, yeah, I showed up at the pro panel and I looked raggedy, and I just love that she owns it. And yeah, the laid backness, but that doesn't mean that they aren't just dripping in talent.
Yeah. Speaking of Lucy, holy, if you haven't gone over to her Instagram, there is a heart-wrenching but also amazing moment there. So she ran with her, if you remember from our episode, she was running with her dad at Western States. So she did 8 hours with her dad, and her dad ended up finishing in 30 hours and 2 minutes, which is 2 minutes off of the cutoff. So the line was essentially, he made it to the Auburn track, which is where the Western States finished, but no buckle. Oh, so sad. 2 minutes, but like they bring such a positive vibe to it. I loved it. Like, all of their recaps were just like, doesn't matter if you get the buckle or not, like, you friggin' completed that distance, which is a feat in itself, and you went through all the emotions and you got there. Like, he'll be back to get that buckle, but like, damn, that was so cool. And to see the videos and just like how invested she was, it was really like, yeah, it was a really cool moment.
Yeah, I know. And then what about Challenge Roth? I know that we were watching that last weekend. There were some crazy times thrown down there.
Yeah, people are saying this might have been like the most epic weekend of long distance course triathlon racing ever. Like, Sebastian Kienle talked about these performances that Magnus and Daniela threw down as like equivalent to like landing on the moon. Like, that's how epic he was calling them. So I'll give you a quick rundown of what happened in them. So if we talk about the women's race, huge statement from Daniela Reef, who came back and beat the Chrissy Wellington's record by 10 minutes for the iron distance. So she swam 50 minutes right on the feet of Fenella Langridge, who's like a top tier swimmer, like swam with Lucy Charles at like the last Ironman World Champs. bike to 4:22
It's insane.
and follows it up with a 2:51 marathon. And like she beat Anne Haug by like 13 minutes. And like Anne Haug is just won PTO European Open, is like on fire right now. And holy, what a statement. I feel like every time people start to doubt Daniela, she just goes like, all right, we'll see about that. She did that at St. George when they had Worlds there, and then this again. And she has her blips, but wow, it's
I know.
amazing when she's on.
That's what I was saying this weekend when I just watching her put on that performance. I was just saying, I love when Daniela just decides to show up and remind everyone who she is. It's like, in case you forgot, I'm Daniela Reeve.
Yeah, I am the greatest long distance triathlete of all time. Like you could debate Chrissy Wellington's up there with her, but like even Chrissy, like in her post is like, yeah, like at the finish line, it was so cool to see Chrissy Wellington and Jan Frodeno doing a bunch of the stuff around the race, like two of the best of all time. And they're even like bowing down to Magnus and Daniela, just saying like, holy, there is a new era here. So yeah, that was really cool. So Daniela got the win there, and then Anne Haug was second. Laura Phillip ended up passing Chelsea Sodaro, who had a bit of a rough go and ended up DNFing. And her coach again is just crazy. Like he went 8:18. He's an age grouper, Dan Plews. Like so crazy. But then yeah, Fenella and Lisa there. So it was like what a women's field. And man, Daniela, what a statement. I think it's going to chalk up to this same group going back to Kona with Lucy in the mix too. And it's going to be exciting to watch. I get to watch it firsthand.
I saw a meme online afterward, and I was just, and I'm more of a runner than a cyclist, although I do like cycling, but they're saying, cyclists making a statement to people who say you can't win an Ironman on the bike, like a 4:22. Like for me,
she went 8:08 a couple years ago. It was crazy. Like it was the performance of your life for men to go under 8 hours in an Ironman. She just went 8:08. Like how long until we see a female go under 8 hours? Like it doesn't seem that far away if they keep getting fitter, more optimized on the bike. These shoes that keep coming out, the research we hear companies like DeBoer are doing, how much faster can you go in the water? Like I don't think it's that far away.
It's exciting. Like I'm so excited for the future of the sport, just watching how much people are improving and how quickly.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about this Roth race is they had some really weird stuff in there. Like you couldn't have any of those weird bike optimizations. Like Joe Skipper couldn't have all his like 40 bottles on his aero bars. But what they did allow, they didn't have the blocks on any of the shoe stuff that World Triathlon has in there. So when we go to the men's race, so men's recap. So another technically iron distance record. Christian Blumenfeld's gone 7:21 in Cosmo, but that was also a downstream swim. That was like a 38-minute swim he did in that. So like there's a bit of an asterisk there. So but Magnus Ditlev came back, won again this year. He went 7:24. So like so crazy fast, 46-minute swim. So he was like just off the heels, like I think 30 seconds or a minute behind Ben Canute and Daniel Bakkegaard. Rode 3:57. So like 46 kilometers an hour on this. And there's like, they have like Solar Hill and stuff on this race. It isn't a pancake course. And then followed up with a 2:37 run. Like so crazy. 7:24.
I can't believe it. And there was some other like remarkable, like Patrick Lang, he's a runner.
So that's where when you talk about the stack height, he has these Adidas prototype shoes that he was allowed to wear in this. He won't be able to wear them in other races, but 50 millimeter stack height, 2 carbon plates in it. Oof. So you got to think that thing had some spring in it. Like it's still the runner in the end. And like, who knows how much benefit that gave him, but yeah, he was
watching Patrick run.
Yeah. Oh, it's majestic. But this is the cool thing about Magnus and Patrick. So in this race, Patrick was finished 6 minutes behind Magnus and had a 2:30 run. So again, this is the fastest run in a long distance triathlon as well, beating his record from Israel late last year. But the crazy thing is Patrick looks just so majestic when he's running, but then you look at Magnus and you're like, oh my goodness, this guy kind of looks like slow almost. And then you look at the splits and they're almost running like close to the same splits. So it's like crazy to see two totally different runners and what they look like, but still going similar speed.
I think that's my favorite thing about spectating and watching people is just the coolest thing about running is everyone has their own unique trait. Like when we were watching the Olympic at Tremblant over the weekend, one of us made a comment that, the people that you train with, you could probably make a black silhouette. You wouldn't see their face and you'd be able to point out who that person is. Everyone has their sort of signature. I think it's so great that everyone has their own unique style of running, and you probably shouldn't even change it that much. Like your body adapts and optimizes for you. So yeah, that distant difference is going to happen, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Third in that race, pretty cool. Ben Canute, his second Ironman, and like, man, what a like people doubted him to be able to do well over this distance, and now he just went 7:37 for fastest American ever in his second Ironman. He's been sub 8 both times now, like pretty wild. And then poor Sam Laidlow was
Crumbled.
yes, swam at the front with Magnus and then biked with Magnus. They got off the bike together and they ran together for a while, but he seems to have apparently he had a bunch of like liver issues and stuff recently, and then yeah, it looked like his gut was off on this one again, and unfortunately he fell apart. It would have been cool to see if he could have hung in there with Magnus right till the end, but I feel like this is just crazy. All these guys like Magnus and Sam Laidlow and stuff are like 23, 24 years old, like
Babies.
wild changing of the guard. These guys have so many good years in front of them. Hopefully they don't just leave it all out there in their mid-20s and are patient and spend many years doing this, play the long game.
I know, just like Frederick Funk last week, he was so good in saying, you know, I'm focusing on taking it slow. I understand I want to be in here till my late 30s. So
poor Freddie had a bike crash last week. So yeah, he was on the Challenge Roth coverage. Belinda and Jan saw him come in and they're like, Freddie, well, like, why do you have bandages all over you? And he apparently hit a cat on his training ride. Just for everyone, the cat is totally fine, but he said he was literally biking along and a cat went into his front wheel and he crashed. I heard that on the coverage and I just started dying laughing. Like he's okay. It looks like he's got to take a little bit off running, but he said he can still bike and stuff. I'm like, poor Freddie, like that's brutal. Rides over a cat. You didn't see that one coming. Yeah, I feel like I should have told you this story off air. We're gonna have to edit this laughing spree out. It's just it. We're not editing this out.
talk about Tremblant.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just keep weeping over this cat.
Yeah. So Tremblant, holy, this was really dubbed to be, especially for myself as a coach and a coaching business that's grown over the last 2 or 3 years since its existence, was really like this was going to be our like pinnacle weekend here in Tremblant. We had like over 40 athletes racing between the Olympic and the 70.3, and beautiful days. I was up there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, all beautiful days, no wind, super hot. We're going, okay, it's going to be probably nice, calm Sunday, no wind, but probably a hot day. And then, oh man, so maybe you can run through what happened that morning.
Okay, so we were in a really awesome Airbnb right near the start. So yeah, we got a really great opportunity to practice that race morning. So all of us were up by, what was it, like 4:30?
Yep.
Yeah. So got to practice that pre-race, and the vibe in the house was super chill. Everyone was so prepared. Like you did such a great job as a coach there wasn't that nervous energy. Everyone just had that confidence that, yeah, we're something special's gonna happen.
I know.
We're all super fit. We're ready to go. We all had our taper. So we all it was super smooth that morning. Gathered all of our stuff, walked down, and I remember stepping out of the house and being like, wow, it's really smoky. Cool. And just, carried on. It wasn't a further thought. There was a really significant decline in visibility. So what we could do is maybe on our social this week, we'll share the before and after, just the same view, just different days. So there definitely was, like, the sun was red. So air quality was a factor. And I remember passing as I was going into transition, still didn't think anything of it. Like there was a few moths hitting me and I sort of swatted them away. I was walking past a racer in transition who was expressing some concern to the medic tent and just saying, oh, like air quality is a little bit concerning. And I just heard them say, yeah, we're watching it. You should be fine. But then I go to rack my bike and it was I almost wanted to throw up. It was the most disgusting thing I've seen. These moths were everywhere. And so much so that they covered the ground. You couldn't even see the pavement anymore. And all the way up the side, it looked like the apocalypse. And when I got to my bike, it was totally covered in ash. But my favorite thing about all these type A people is that we continued to get ready for the race. And like, I was like, yeah, okay, this is going to be annoying, like brushing all these moths off my helmet, but like, let's go. It's going to be a great day. But then all of a sudden, and how many racers were there in Tremblant?
Total? I'm
Yeah,
not sure,
like
like
ballpark.
2,500 probably. It's
Yeah,
a
like
big race.
Yeah. So all of a sudden, over the loudspeaker, there was this announcement, and it was wild. So say there's 2,500 people, it just went silent to get that many people to just be quiet.
You could tell the tone right away, just in like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you some information and I'm gonna say it in English and then I'm gonna say it in French, and you could tell right away it was not gonna be good.
Yeah, everyone was just silent. And he announced that just due to public health and for the safety of all the racers, that they were canceling the event. And we were literally like 30 minutes from going down to the water, doing our warm up and starting.
Yeah, it was almost like 6:20 at that
Yeah.
point with a 7 a.m. start.
So, and we'll go through different reactions, but my absolute favorite reaction of the day goes to the woman beside me who threw her hands in the air and like cheered. She's like, yes, this is amazing. I wasn't supposed to be racing. She was injured. So no one had a better day than the woman who's racked beside me.
What about the girl on the Facebook group? She might have had as
oh my gosh. So there was so 3 reactions I want to talk about that are actually very hilarious. So Facebook page, when we were back at our Airbnb later, there was actually, do you have it up? If not, I'll add it.
I'll see if I can find it.
So this woman goes on Facebook and her comment is, hey, does anyone know where to buy cannabis products in Mont Tremblant? It's not legal where I'm coming from. And I want to know, oh, here it is. I'm going to read it. You can see how off I was. Okay. I'm not going to say her name, but where I am from, cannabis is illegal. Where can it be obtained around here? Asking for a friend. So we laughed over that. And then the third, and will go unnamed, but one of the members of our club looked at us and said, I lubed up my butt for this.
I did not hear that one, but
I'll tell you what is after.
oh my goodness.
Overall, I think people were disappointed. And obviously a wide range of reactions from people, but I'm going to pause there. How did you react when you found out?
Yeah, I think that's like a maturity in the sport part is like, I totally get it, especially if it's like your first race, you've invested so much time into this, money, like all these things for this like one day that you've like built up so many nerves for, and then it's just so anticlimactic. And I feel like earlier in my career, I would have been angry at the situation and stuff like that, but really my first reaction just went into like problem solving mode of just like, okay, how do I get out of here as quickly as possible? Cause it's going to be crazy. And like, I felt like right in the moment, I wasn't necessarily that like disappointed about it, but then I feel like the more days that have gone on now, I just have more of a like, oh man, like what if, like what, not that I'm saying we should have raced that day, because I feel like we all would have permanent lung damage, but
Except we all would have. They saved us from ourselves. Like that was a group of type A people who would have just said,
yeah, I was agreeing with you. I said we would have. But yeah, it was, I look back on it and it was just like, I chalked this up and it was just on the cusp of being this like magical weekend for myself as a coach, as an athlete, for the club as a whole. Like it was just going to be exciting. And then it was just like, like how many opportunities in a year can you get together like that amazing of a team of people to do that?
I think there's lots more opportunities ahead of you with
Totally.
that.
But it's not easy to do. And
it's true.
Yeah. And now we look at like all the deferral options and stuff you're doing, and now everybody's just spreading out, and we can try again for next year. But how can you, it was just like the coming together of people is tough.
I know.
Yeah.
But the deferral options were awesome.
Holy, well
done.
Yeah, I loved in our group, like a couple people were bashing Ironman before they even gave them a chance. And I'm like, I feel like Tremblant is a different vibe where they're actually going to give some good options for this. Like I was actually positive on this, and holy, they maybe gave like the best options I've ever seen from a race.
Yeah,
so they moved, first of all, the 70.3 for the people that want it to the same day as the Ironman, which Tremblant, I don't think, like the Ironman itself isn't a massive race to begin with. So adding in a 70.3 where I don't think a ton of people are going to transfer over anyways is a cool option for people that want to get it in this year. They also gave 2024 Tremblant, so you could move to next year. You could do another 70.3 that wasn't sold out. They would give a refund if you wanted it, or you could upgrade to the full for no additional cost. So like, wow, literally any option you could ask for, they gave it. So like,
People will still be mad somehow.
I know,
They'll
but
find a
kudos to
way.
Ironman on that. They didn't have to give that menu of options. So I feel like for as much slack as we give them and enough things that they do cut corners on and can be dicks on sometimes, like they crushed this one. I got a big kudos to them. And I think that maybe comes down more to the Tremblant team as opposed to maybe Ironman as a whole. Hard to say.
Yeah, that was my first reaction when I found out, just having events as part of what I do for my day-to-day work. I just like instantly had one of those like, ugh, this like the poor race organizers.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, as sad as I am, they're much sadder. Like the amount of time and effort, like they were the last people that wanted to cancel that. So really, I
100%.
just felt badly. For
Yeah, I
them.
know. As somebody who's done events that have got canceled like that, when I was working concerts back in the day and like the stage collapsed before a Radiohead concert, like it's the same sort of thing. You put everything gets built up and then it's just thrown away in a second. And like it is the worst thing as an organizer to be a part of that. Ugh.
And then the disassemble is as sad as like
Yeah.
set up. You have all this anticipation and tear down like of when the event actually happens. Like that's exhausting, but something happened. It
Yeah.
just felt like an exercise in futility.
And you can tell all these great stories of the hilarious things you saw that
Yeah.
day or the inspiring things. And then you're just like, well, let's go clean up all these moths. And it was like apocalyptic,
It
like
was-
creepy, like smoky. The sun was red and there's moths everywhere. Like
know.
what is happening to the world?
I know it's like I mean, another call out, like it's really sad. Obviously we live in Canada, and just seeing the amount of forest fires that there is, like it's really affecting the air quality here, and it's obviously affecting our forests, and it's sad.
We were talking this morning on a run. I don't think like maybe I don't have a very good memory from when I was a kid, but like you do. Do you ever remember fires like this, like being around?
No,
Yeah, I
I don't.
don't remember this in my lifetime. What are we living through these last couple of years? Pandemic into friggin' housing crisis going on to smoke everywhere. What is
I know.
happening?
And you know what I do remember that we had when I was a kid that I don't feel like we have anymore in terms of weather. I promise this ties in. Was during the winter time or the snowstorm. So I remember we had this garage, and we would like climb up on top of our garage roof. And like we were kids, like I'm talking like 8 to 10, and like run from the very peak of the roof and just run down the roof and just jump into the snow. And it was so deep that we could almost disappear into it. It doesn't snow like that anymore.
Global warming.
I know. Well, climate change.
Yeah, pretty
which
wild.
is like we need to care about.
So from that Tremblant part, how did you feel about it? I don't think we touched on that. What was your emotion?
That I felt my first emotion was like just a lot of empathy for the race organizers.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Truthfully, like I don't know, I was excited for the race, but I still like I'm getting back into that race groove. So I wasn't mad.
Yeah. So what option are you going to take on the deferral?
So I took a very uncharacteristic angle, and you were with me last night, where I was just like going back and forth and truly lamenting, because one of the things in the way that I operate is I want to try and do everything all at once. And so
the most epic thing always.
Yeah, like I just want to jam pack my schedule, overcommit. That's something that I have done too much of in the past. So obviously I wanted to do the Ironman, and it was difficult because as my coach, you were saying, you know, you could do Tremblant full, which was really exciting for me. I love the Ironman distance. And I could recover in time for Kona. But when I thought about it, I realized, you know, it's pretty much like 50-50. It's similar experiences. It's just one has more risk. So ultimately, I decided to go with one that is less risk and is guaranteed for a little bit more consistency, which is my goal because I have big goals ahead. So I'm doing Tremblant half, which
this year.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But it was hard because there was like, I was coming home to tell you I was doing the full yesterday and I talked myself out of it, which is not very much like me.
Yeah, I was just going to lay out the pros and cons of each and let you make a decision. So, wow, maturity as an athlete. I figured you would have pulled towards the full as well.
I know. Are you proud of my decision? Indifferent? Do you not care?
Yeah, I honestly think either of them would have worked, but I definitely, you need to be all in if you're doing an Ironman. So,
I know. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe Kona won't be great, but I want to at least give myself a chance for it to be great.
totally.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I decided I'm going to take the bump to the full.
Whoop,
Why not? So I already had Maryland planned for September, and like honestly, the bridge to doing Tremblant a couple weeks earlier and gives me two kind of cracks at an Ironman. And Cody Beals is doing 3 in 8 weeks. I can do 2 in 5 weeks or whatever it is. So
It's true.
yeah, I like that Tremblant course. I had a rough one there a couple years ago and just feel like I'm a totally different athlete than that.
Why?
And when you get a free upgrade for an Ironman, why not take it?
Take it.
And now you get to cheer me on because you can't come to Maryland. You get to cheer me on at this one, so it's a win-win.
I know. Are you mad that I'm not coming to Maryland?
No,
I have a
fine.
work event.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm not really somebody who like needs a Sherpa or needs support. Like I can do it mostly internally. So
I will create an artificial intelligence version of myself and I will send it along.
That is creepy. Cue the cardboard cutout. AI. We got to make that happen.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so some of the cool things that I've been working on is just making my bike a lot better.
Yeah.
I think it was one of our guests recently was talking about bike fit and how just, how you should probably look at it year over year. And I do notice that as I work on my mobility and flexibility and just, honestly, as I get older, sometimes checking in with where you are in flexibility. So I just did a bike fit and then I did a few adjustments in terms of the front of my bike. And oh my gosh, the difference it makes. Like,
so what did you change?
Well, the armrests, and I'm going to get new extenders. We actually lifted and re-angled where the aero bars are. And what is I love about that is it took some pressure off my low back. And I've talked a little bit about the fact that I've had some back issues and it moved it into, and now when I cycle, I feel it more in my lats and my glutes. And I just feel like I'm driving from a more powerful place.
Nice.
So yeah, I honestly, I feel immediately faster on the bike, stronger, and I get less fatigued. So I think I'm going to do some special things on the bike this year.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than like back pain while doing aero. Those were some of the things I had to fix in the last couple of years. And like, man, it's nice when it comes down and it's more like sort of hip stuff that you need to deal with because you can work on that off the bike. Like I do tons of adductor and hip strengthening and mobility stuff, and like that it's way easier to do than like back pain where it's just like because of the position and you can't necessarily like you can strengthen it a bit, but it's more just like awkward positioning. So that's a big move for you. And that new aero bottle you have is sweet too.
Oh yeah, I got a new aero bottle and then a new spot for my bike computer. So it just I've optimized so much and it just feels good and I'm excited to ride my bike. It's been great.
Yeah, that bike has been sweet for you.
I know, I really like it. I ride an Argon. Question for you, and because you mentioned all the stretching and mobility, one of the things that I like about triathlon is that there's so many different moving parts that you can always be optimizing. Would you say that your mobility and your stretching is what's your main focus this year?
Yeah, it's 100% that because I've always felt I've had, especially on the bike, a bigger engine because I've found I could breathe like super hard or like really felt like I was going to the max on the bike. I would always just like get fatigued adductors and hip wise. So there's the great thing about Instagram is there's so many like resources out there and like sports sort of physios and strength coaches and stuff you can follow there. Plus like our strength coach Adam in there too. And like I found more and more like, sure, I need to do some of the mobility stuff, but working on the adductor and hip strength stuff is actually like the biggest difference for me. And like, holy, pushing like the best power I ever have while being able to hold a nice aero position the whole time and not be uncomfortable in there has been like a game changer on the bike, which has historically been my weakest part of a triathlon. So it's exciting.
Amazing.
Yeah. And my swim's coming, man. I was going to have
know.
such a good swim at that race. So are you, man. We were on the cusp.
I know my swimming is coming. I think that's like, I've really been like, I've added an extra session every week and we've been working with a specialized swim coach this year. and it's making a difference.
Remember tell them about your first swim versus your first open water swim this year versus what you were doing in Tremblant.
Oh, it was like, I don't know, was it almost like 20 seconds difference
Yeah, it's like
per
yeah,
100
I think
meters?
like 17 seconds per 100. You were swimming like low 150s, and honestly, your stroke looked absolutely horrible that first time I saw it in the
I
open
was
water.
so mad that day. I was so angry on the way home because I was like, I'm doing everything I can and I'm garbage.
I
Well,
thought you
I'm
were
a
gonna
fraud.
quit. I thought you were gonna quit triathlon. Honestly, I was waiting for it.
Well, I just, it was one of those moments where I didn't understand why it was so hard. But that leads into what I've been working on this year. I told you early on that what I have to work on the most is not really sports at all, but it's more mindset.
Mhm.
So I've been like positive vibes only. So I was frustrated that day. But even, okay, so even the workout that I had right after Tremblant, we like tapered hard and carb loaded for like a really great 8-hour ride home. So I was expecting the first workout back that I would be sort of chomping at the bit. I would have this amazing performance. But no, that's what you had. Um, I was struggling like systemically. I felt so off. I was the worst on that workout. And when I finished, I think that you were expecting me to be like upset at all in some way.
Mhm.
And I just was like, well, wasn't my day, and moved on and went into the house. And it was actually that workout that really highlighted all of the hard work that I've done in terms of mindset. Like when I have a really great workout, like today, for instance, like it's just a day. So it's an indicator, but it's not the indicator of my fitness.
Mhm.
It all ties together, and I'm going to have good days and bad days. And I knew that before, but I truly get it now, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah, people want to chalk up their fitness to a single workout or a single FTP test or something like that, but you
no
need to look how you're trending over time, and are you better than you were
consistency.
a month or so ago, both consistent wise and like just the general numbers and feelings that you're getting during that time is so important. And I think people lose sight of that a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, there's moments of frustration, but I think where I like the mindset that I've really worked to cultivate is then I don't give up, even if I don't see immediate results. I'm like, well, just keep showing up,
Mhm.
like refresh, find like the joy in the training. What can you focus on? What is positive? Lean on that. And what is exciting for me is it always comes.
Totally. And it's one of those things I feel like if you take care of those like pillars of performance we're talking about every time, and just like make sure you're doing all those things around training, nutrition, recovery, sleep, like your strength, mobility stuff, like eventually if you keep at it and you're getting whatever enough like stress and volume on there, that like the workouts don't need to be this like exact perfect science of stuff. If you're consistent over time and do all the right things so you can absorb it, like you're gonna get better.
Are you doing anything new or notable in any of the pillars right now?
No, I think it's again just that mobility strength part that like is such a huge factor for me. And when I'm really good about just doing a lot of that and my strength stuff these days is not nothing intense. It's more like activation stuff in those key areas. And when I take care of the mobility in those like strength pieces, like holy, it's just I have such good workouts. So that's the only thing I'm really doing there. I'm already in a good spot fitness wise. So it's just like those final pieces on the way to Tremblant that I need to take care of around nutrition and sleep to absorb the training. But I'm not even gonna I'm erring on the side of being maybe a little bit undercooked going into Tremblant versus trying to do like 5 weeks of extreme stuff. It'll just be a little bump on what I've done there to get there. But I like where I'm already at. So it's just like just put the icing on top and don't do anything dumb to set yourself backwards.
No. One of the pillars that I've been leaning on, because when I asked you, I'm like, oh shoot, what am I doing? Um, I'm working really hard on that. It's a recovery element. It's sort of like recovery and nutrition all tied into one. So my nighttime routine, I had let it slip for a while, but having my protein every night with my supplements. So the supplements that I take fish oil every single day, magnesium, vitamin D, calcium. Every day I've got some like greens powder, not athletic greens. Um, what else do I take? I have like 5-HTP. I've got a whole bunch of them, but they're all like from working with our naturopath and just blood tests and deciding like what's going to help me and bolster. And I find that, what did I say this morning? I was like, I have an elevated sense of well being with all my supplements that I've been taking. So I just like, I feel good energy. I'm not like, sometimes if I am not consistent with my magnesium, I'll cramp in the pool, especially in my night swims. So yeah, I've been feeling good lately, and I've been like picking up on that routine, which is nice.
So many of those people are pumping it out, and I'm very interested to maybe try it at some point. But that Pillar Performance triple magnesium that people are pumping out there. So Pillar Performance, if you hear this, please sponsor the podcast and send us some stuff. But
Yeah, we'll take some samples. Why
yeah,
not?
it
I'll
looks
try anything once.
everybody's promoting it and is saying it's like a game changer for feeling good like overnight there. So be an interesting one to try.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll check it out. So do we want to do our quick hitters?
Yeah, let's do our rapid fire section to finish. So
Okay. So Mark actually, I'm so proud of Mark. Like I might never be more in love with you. Because one of the things about me is that I love questions. We actually made a joke about it in our engagement shoot where I bought a book called 4,000 Questions. We actually have like a little journal called Questions, I think 365 questions, or a question a day for you and me or something. And so every day he gets asked a question. I'm always like, I love questions.
So the 4,000 questions only lasted the first day. So we had to get the 365 one out, and only one question per day is allowed. So we needed to put the governor on her, or it would have been 4,000 a day, and then we'd have nothing to talk about ever.
So Mark, what's funny is Mark is like a very simple isn't the right word. Like yeah, simple. Like you're not a complex person, and I love that about you. But I believe that you're always learning about a person. So I know you very well. Probably like I know if you would grow wings, where you would fly to, which is not a normal thing that married couples know. But the interesting thing is we're going to introduce and bring that questions to this, and I love that Mark brought this into the podcast. So I'll ask you the first question. What current book are you reading?
Yeah, so I'm actually reading a coaching related one, which I think it's right behind me here. Let me just look at the title of it again. So it's called Coaching Athletes to Be Their Best. I couldn't remember the exact title of it and didn't want to butcher it. But essentially it's around like the mindset of helping athletes become better. Cause I feel like I've always been strong at the like training side of things, but really continuing to hone in on that athlete psychology of like really personalizing training for each athlete. And like everybody brings a different mindset to it. So like, how are the ways that I can become a better coach around that to make sure that I'm servicing those athletes as best I can, and customizing things to make sure that they're improving, because the mindset is such a massive thing. I was just talking to one of my athletes today who like I'm looking at their training peaks and going like, your workouts are like great and like you've been consistent, but like you are just mentally like ahead of every single workout, like cannibalizing your workout because you're just like so in your own head around these things. So like how can you work with each athlete to optimize that stuff? So it's been super interesting around the mental side of working with athletes.
Do you think that you read mostly nonfiction books, like about triathlon?
Yeah, I've been enjoying the odd like fiction book here and there, but yeah, I find I actually got away from reading a lot and we're just hammering podcasts a lot, but now I'm finding more and more it's nice to have that release kind of before bed where you just put the phone and podcasts and stuff away and do some reading, and helps you go to sleep. So
Are you reading that poker book I gave you?
Oh yes, I'm actually reading that as well. What's that one called?
The something blind something.
Nice.
Let me quickly Google it. Say,
but it's essentially around like a person who had never played poker before, and they're like a psychologist, and they go through pretty much becoming a professional poker player.
it's so good. And it teaches you so many really great lessons. I'm not going to get it, and we're not going to wait around till I find it, but maybe we'll actually put it in the show notes so that people can read it, because I actually read it and then told you to read it because it's so good. Clearly the title isn't memorable though.
It has been interesting. So what are you reading right now?
So back to like my whole toxic trait of signing up for everything and taking more than I can chew. I also was an English literature major, so I love reading, like love it, love it. So I always have more than one book on the go. And currently I'm in 3 book clubs. So I'm reading 3 books right now. First is Becoming by Michelle Obama. I've never read that book, so it's been really interesting. And then I'm reading Mame by Jessica George. And then I'm reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And actually, the fourth book for the third book club that I'm a part of is Dare to Lead by Brene Brown.
Nice.
So
That's
lots
good
of
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work on these quick hitter parts.
They're not
I went on a spiel, friggin' send on that first book part, so
No, it's
I'll do
great.
better next
I
time.
love books.
All right, second question of the day. What is your to date your favorite race location that you've done? And is it because of the race location or your race performance is kind of a follow-up piece to that?
It's really hard to separate that because
Ooh.
don't you find that often the better the race, the more you like the location?
It's hard to say. I feel like mine's not necessarily going to be that, but fire away.
So I have two. Number one favorite, Ironman Canada. That's in
you won.
Penticton. Yes. But it's not just because
Yeah,
I won.
that's
That
a
was such a
beautiful
beautiful
area.
spot.
Yeah, totally. agree.
Although I could go back and forth because Lake Placid
Mhm.
is, I think, yeah, it depends on the day. Lake Placid or Penticton.
Yeah.
They're just they're so similar too. And which is why I wanted to do Ironman Mont Tremblant, because I feel like that sort of like is in the same
Yeah.
vibe, which I will always love races like that. How
Yeah,
about
it
you?
is. Those three are all very similar. Nice. I would say mine. I actually really enjoyed when we raced in Nice, France.
Ooh, yeah, that was nice.
More I feel like just because of the amount of gelato and pizza and pasta we ate after in Italy. So I feel like that was more of the trip as a whole. But that like course and area was so beautiful too. Like what an epic bike course where you just go so slow because you're climbing a mountain and then so afraid on the descent while people are just sending it. So
I had a blast at that race.
yeah, and it's gonna be wild to see Ironman World Champs. I just saw they put out the course for that there too, and it's gonna be a crazy race there. Holy hard race.
Yeah, I want to go back there.
Yeah, such a good spot. All right. Next up, what is your favorite race distance slash type? So I'm talking like either a running race or triathlon, and then as well like specific distance.
I think it's so hard. I
Gotta
don't
pick one to do for the rest of your life every single day. What's it gonna be?
Ironmans because
Every day. Okay, Iron Cowboy.
no, but well, you wouldn't rate, but like training for it. And that's where like before you started coaching me, the reason that I settled on triathlon as my sport is because I was like doing crit racing and mountain bike racing and road running and trail running and adventure racing. And you made me focus. So I focused on the one that gave me three options. So
I didn't make you do anything. You chose.
you
that.
encouraged me to
Yeah.
be my best. And
Yeah, it
that
panned out pretty well.
yeah.
On that note, if you were doing an Ironman a day, there's that Sean Conway guy who's trying to beat Iron Cowboy's record is currently on day number 80 of his Ironman journey. So he's trying to go 102 to beat Iron Cowboy.
I think the Iron Cowboy wakes up every day and just like refreshes his phone. He's like, who is this Sean guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see what that dynamic would be. Would he be like supportive of it, or would he be like, damn it?
I feel
Who
like
is
he
this
has
guy?
to be outwardly.
Yeah.
Like he can't, but probably inside he's a competitive
Yeah.
man. He'd be like, damn it, I gotta go do 103.
Yeah, it's Sean Conway adventure for anybody that wants to follow that. But I feel like there's few people that can understand the pain and what goes into that. So I feel like you'd have to have a mutual respect for each other.
I think so. Like it's so impressive
Man.
what they're doing.
No kidding.
I would not do one a day, just for the
Yeah.
record.
Fair enough. I feel like my favorite race distance or type, I feel like it would be a half marathon running race would be my favorite. I just love that distance. And yeah, it's a nice mix of endurance, but also pinning it for the 21K. So I think that would be my choice. All right. Final two questions here. We're going into food. So I feel like we need to get a good conversation chat going. We'll get a poll or a question going on Instagram after this because I feel like this is going to divide the masses on their favorite and least favorite food. So maybe start on your favorite food. What would be something that you could just eat every day for the rest of your life?
Oh my God. So, but like that's different. My favorite food could be different.
Okay,
than
well,
what I
just
would
go
eat.
favorite food. We won't make you go. So now you're gonna pick on detail here. Here we go.
I know. Well, because like okay.
We'll save that one for the next podcast.
And this is like very similar to the race distance and type because there's like I love so many foods.
All right, we'll give you the ultimatum one on the next one, and then you can. This is just the favorites today.
Okay. So like maybe like a 13-course Italian tasting menu.
That's not one food.
I don't know, cereal, sandwiches.
Oh my goodness. That's what you go to. I feel like you might like a nice like steak or something like that.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I have the like you need to eat it every day for the rest of your life stuck in my head.
Yeah.
So
Mine would be pasta. So it's
you
going to be
love
some
pasta.
sort of pasta,
Yeah.
whether it's mac and cheese or lasagna.
I renege on the cereal. I think like just like a really, really good sandwich. I love
Fair enough.
sandwiches.
Yeah, I would maybe go lasagna as my number one.
I know. You
Love it. All right. And let's finish it off with what is your food hell?
Okay. My food hell is sitting down at a table where you need to be super polite. Someone has made it for you, and it's all like organ meats and like tripe and like stomach lining and like brains and eyeballs. So like some of the horror stories that you hear of like, I don't know, like people traveling and needing to sit down with that. I think like not a vegetable in sight. And yeah, just a bunch of organ meats.
Oh, yeah, that sounds pretty
I
nasty.
win.
So my food hell actually is a story that happened to me.
Ooh.
So when I was on my European adventure, barely had any drinks on that trip. But I was at Oktoberfest, and you're a couple masses deep during the day there. Those are what the Steins are
I was
in
gonna say
Germany.
I don't even know what that is.
I figured I might need to be clear on that. But you're a couple like Steins deep, and you're not really paying attention that well. And I went to this like food counter to get some food in the middle of the day, and I was like, okay, that looks like a nice like breaded chicken sandwich there. So ordered it, and it was all in like German, so I didn't really know what the names were, but pulled it out, wasn't really paying attention, and took this bite, and it turned out to be this like really weird fish sandwich.
Okay.
And it was just so gross, the taste, that literally like I was like gagging, almost vomiting, and then literally for months and months after, I couldn't like get this taste out of my mouth. And then anytime my friend Mike, who was on the trip there with me, would mention anything about a fish sandwich, I would just start gagging. So it was like one of those.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was just absolutely horrible. So for forever, it's that fish sandwich at Oktoberfest.
So
Steer
if I'm
clear.
mad at you, I'm making you fish sandwiches.
Well, I've had other fish sandwiches that are delicious, but that was not one of them.
My food hell almost kind of happened. Like back when I was doing environmental journalism, I needed to go to like this chef was making this meal, and it was like we were all supposed to sit down and review this situation, and he put down tripe soup. And then it followed up with like liver. So like I have been in that situation.
I don't know if I've had either of those, and I'm not really that inclined to ever try
I'll make
them.
it for you with a fish sandwich.
Nice 3-course gourmet meal. Tripe soup to start. Nice liver appetizer, and finish with a fish sandwich. Here we go.
So that is to appease that little section. For our YouTube audience really wants to hear more about us. So there you go. And we in turn want to hear more about you. I will ask these questions online. I want to hear all about what is your favorite food, what is your food hell, and we'll keep this little section going in the future.
Awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in and listening to us babble on about everything triathlon and weird shit about us. So we'll keep that coming so you can get to know us better.
Yeah, but we'll be back to regular scheduling next week with a special guest, and we hope that you have happy training, and we'll see you then. Wow, how great was that? I always learn so much from these endurance icons. If you enjoyed the podcast as well, please consider liking us across social media, subscribing to us on YouTube, or giving us a 5-star rating on wherever you listen to your podcasts. We appreciate you and your support so much. We wish you happy training, and we'll see you back next week.